stage behind me is set for two leaders, but we may only see one. President Trump says that he will call off the joint news conference and address the world solo if he feels that Putin isn't ready for peace. So far, they've been talking for about 2.5 hours. A short ride in the president's limousine may be the only one-on-one time for Presidents Trump and Putin after both the U.S. and Russian sides added officials to their meeting. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff joining Trump, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Foreign Affairs Advisor Yuri Ushakov joining Putin. The Russians not signaling any willingness to budge on Putin's pursuit of war, instead characterizing the Alaska summit as a chance to explain Russia's worldview.
We know that we have arguments, and we have clear position. We will explain it. A lot has already been done during the visits of Stephen Witkoff.
But President Trump says he won't be satisfied with anything less than a ceasefire and is ready to address journalists solo and send Putin home if he doesn't get what he wants.
I want to see a ceasefire rapidly. I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today.
Russia brought along hundreds of businessmen hoping to capitalize on a renewed U.S.-Russia relationship. Some say a sign Putin wants to make this summit about anything other than peace. President Trump sees it as a good thing, especially as he holds biting secondary sanctions in his back pocket.
We have the hottest country, and he wants a piece of that because his country is not hot economically. In fact, it's the opposite.
Meantime, Europe is watching. Analysts say Putin cannot be trusted to keep any deal, and security guarantees will be key to any post-war picture. Trump says U.S. support for that is on the table. Trump's main goal is to set the stage for a second summit that would include Ukrainian President Zelensky, where the two sides can get to those issues that Trump says he won't touch today, like land swaps. But Zelensky has set a prerequisite for that at a ceasefire.
No, ma'am, this is not a good idea.
Damn son of a bitch.
Oh no, Donald, my coffee. My coffee spills. I am so angry. Donald. Yeah, let's go, baby. Here's the live shot. Let's freaking go. We are ready to rock. We are ready to roll. We are ready to rip. And apparently we have peace. I don't know. There's good news coming out of this thing. So we'll see. Here's the live shot right now. Scott Presler standing up. I don't know how they got Scott Presler in there. How'd they get Scott all the way up to Alaska? Is Scott Presler trying to flip Alaska? Because my kids. My hair. My kids crawl on my shoulders and go like this with my hair. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. We get the bat signal from ALX. It says, get your asses back to the studio. And here we go, both Klein and I. Burning rubber, back to the studio, and we are locked and ready to go. So, we got Scott Presler. She should be New Jersey or Pennsylvania, but here he is, standing right there, doing a stand-up on live TV. There goes Steve Witkoff walking behind. Here's your live shot. Soon we will have Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump up on stage. Now, you can already notice something really funny about the troll here. Look at the height of Trump's mic versus Putin's mic. Yeah, is that kind of funny? Well, that's because good old Vladimir is a little bit shorter than Donald Trump. If you would, Klein, can you please pop up my window? There we go. Now, as you know, what's going to happen here is that we're going to chit-chat about everything that's gone on over the last few hours since we've been live. And then we are going to be, I'm going to get cut off the second that we hear that President Trump and Vladimir Putin are walking to the stage, okay? So you can expect us to miss absolutely nothing. President Trump has finished a 3-hour meeting with Putin. And now we are ready to rock. Donald Trump's already been rocking. Look at these photos. Look at that. Look at him go. President Trump greeted Vladimir Putin with an absolute act of total majesty, a complete power move. Look at this. Vladimir Putin left absolutely jaw on the floor as B-2s and F-22 Raptors buzzed his head. Check this out. You can tell he's shook. You can tell he was like, what is that? Do you notice this? I'm not going to stop too much, but you notice that he stops. Look at that. He had no idea it was coming. Trump kept walking like a boss. He had no idea it was coming, and Vladimir Putin looks up and just stops and stands there and then turns around and looks around. Amazing, amazing alpha move by President Trump. Freaking awesome. If it was a lib negotiating a peace deal, then it's like 10 months of planning, 32 morons sitting around a table, nobody saying anything of consequence, then everybody leaving with nothing accomplished. So they all go out and do whatever they do in, in Zurich, right? This is like Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump planning a peace conference. Donald Trump planning a peace conference is like, okay, how about this? Let's just YOLO this thing. Get in my car, and here's some peace. Okay, get in my car and peace. This is the Donald Trump way. Look at him go. Trump's like, literally, get in my vehicle. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a little bit of movement. It looks like we have, that's Sergei Lavrov. He is the Russian foreign minister. He's getting seated right now. We still don't have any movement from our dignitaries, President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right. So you can see some of the people, some of the dignitaries being seated here. Why don't we punch in and we'll show you. You can see there's Stephen Chung, there's Pete Hegseth, there's Lutnick, there's Caroline. Sweet Caroline. John Ratcliffe is there, the head of the CIA, director of the CIA. Okay, so many of the big names and big players getting seated. I guess that means that Trump's going to be out very soon. So we'll wait and see. See the American and Russian flags there together. Pursuing Peace is the name of this press conference. And so we await the world leaders. There's Marco Rubio popping over. Okay, Steve Witkoff. These are the two main negotiators that were with President Trump with this delegation. Here's Marco Rubio looking around, hamming it up. Ham bone for the camera. Right. I mean, that means that President Trump and Vladimir Putin will be imminent, for sure. A live shot, ladies and gentlemen, from the military base in Alaska, where everything went down. Donald Trump, a historic mogging. A historic mogging of Vladimir Putin with the military. He flew a B-2 bomber over his head and surprised him. We're going to pray for peace here. I'm going to say, pray for peace. This is what you want. Blessed are the peacemakers. This is what you want. Then he forces Putin into his car. If you've been following our coverage, then you're up to date. We played you the clip of the planes flying over. The two men had a handshake, and Putin went in his car, went into Donald Trump's beast. And then they drove off together, and that's really the last time we saw them. We saw a photo. People got photos of them sitting in two chairs, but that's everything. You're up to date. We're now up to date. So we played you the flyover. It's awesome. We have that from a couple other angles. We'll see how long this takes. We have that from many other angles we can play for you. Donald Trump did the power handshake, as ever.
And the president of the Russian Federation.
Here we go. Here we go. Roaring applause.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen,
Our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect. We have very thorough negotiations that were quite useful. I would like to thank once again my American counterpart for the proposal to travel out here to Alaska. It only makes sense that we've met here because our countries, though separated by the oceans, are close neighbors. So when we've met, when I came out of the plane and I've said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor. Very good to see you. In good health and to see you alive." I think that is very neighborly. And I think that's some kind words that we can say to each other. We're separated by the Strait of Bering, though there are 2 islands only between the Russian island and the US island. They're only 4 kilometers apart. We're close neighbors, and it's a fact. It's also important that Alaska has to do with our common heritage, common history between Russia and the US, and many positive events have to do with that territory. Still, there is tremendous cultural heritage back from the Russian America. For example, Orthodox churches and a lot of more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. During the Second World War, it was here in Alaska that was the origin of the legendary air bridge for the supply of military aircraft and other equipment under the Land-Lease program. It was a dangerous and treacherous route over the vast emptiness of ice. However, the pilots of both countries did everything to bring closer the victory. They risked their lives and they gave it all for the common victory. I was just in the city of Magadan in Russia, and there is a memorial there dedicated to the Russian and the US pilots. And there are 2 flags, the US flag and the Russian flag. And I know that here as well, there is such a memorial. There is a military burial place several kilometers away from here. The Soviet pilots that buried there who died during that dangerous mission. We're thankful to the citizens and the government of the US for carefully taking care of their memory. I think that's very worthy and noble. We'll always remember other historical examples when our countries defeated common enemies together in the spirit of battle camaraderie and allyship that supported each other and facilitated each other. I'm sure that this heritage will help us rebuild and foster mutually beneficial and equal ties at this new stage, even during the hardest conditions. It is known that there have been no summits between Russia and the US for 4 years, and that's a long time. This time was very hard for bilateral relations, and let's be frank, they've fallen to the lowest point since the Cold War. I think that's not benefiting our countries and the world as a whole. It is apparent that sooner or later, we had to amend the situation to move on from the confrontation to dialogue. And in this case, a personal meeting between the heads of state has been long overdue, naturally, under the condition of serious and painstaking work. This work has been done in general. Me and President Trump have very good direct contact. We've spoken multiple times. We spoke frankly on the phone. And special envoy of the president, Mr. Witkoff, traveled out to Russia several times. Our advisors and heads of foreign ministries kept in touch all the time. And you know fully well that one of the central issues was the situation around Ukraine. We see the strive of the administration and President Trump personally to help facilitate the resolution of the Ukrainian conflict. And his strive to get to the crux of the matter, to understand this history, is precious. As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security. Moreover, we've always considered the Ukrainian nation, and I've said it multiple times, a brotherly nation, however strange it may sound in these conditions. We have the same roots, and everything that's happening is a tragedy for us, a terrible wound. Therefore, the country is sincerely interested in putting an end to it. At the same time, we're convinced that in order to make the settlement lasting and long-term, we need to eliminate all the primary roots the primary causes of that conflict, and we've said it multiple times, to consider all legitimate concerns of Russia and to reinstate a just balance of security in Europe and in the world on the whole. And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we are prepared to work on that. I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress. Incidentally, when the new administration came to power, bilateral trade started to grow. It's still very symbolic. Still, we have a growth of 20%. As I've said, we have a lot of dimensions for joint work. It is clear that U.S. and Russian investment and business cooperation has tremendous potential. Russia and the U.S. can offer each other so much in trade, digital, high-tech, and in space exploration. We see that Arctic cooperation is also very possible, and our international context, for example, between the Far East of Russia and the West Coast of the U.S. Overall, it's very important for our countries to turn the page, to go back to cooperation. It is symbolic that not far away from here, the border between Russia and the U.S., there is a so-called international date line. I think you can step over it literally from yesterday into tomorrow. And I hope that we'll succeed in that, in political sphere. I would like to thank President Trump for our joint work, for the well-wishing and trustworthy tone of our conversation. It's important that both sides are result-oriented, and we see that the President of the U.S. has a very clear idea of what he would like to achieve. He sincerely cares about prosperity of his nation. Still, he understands that Russia has its own national interests. I expect that today's agreements will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the U.S. And in the end, I would like to add one more thing. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump is saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good business-like and trustworthy contact. And I have every reason to believe that moving down this path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound. And I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on. Most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate. And I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe. Thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here. And I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time. And we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, who I know in many cases, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No questions? No questions. They're not doing questions. Whoa. Wow. What an absolute rug pull. What a rug. They brought them all up to Alaska. They brought the press of the world to Alaska. Oh, man. Just look at their faces. That's so funny. Oh, my gosh. You brought them to a different continent, practically. Just to stand there, just to sit there and get the pre-recorded, like, hey, we made an agreement. Let me give you the TLDR of the full, because I have the whole transcript in front of me. We made an agreement. It was amazing. Very constructive. If Trump was president, there would have been no war. Frickin' love each other. We did some shots of vodka. It's great. It's great. Smoked a cigarette. Anyway, I gotta make a couple of phone calls. You bastards can enjoy your 9-hour trip back to your studio apartment and your cats and your White Claw. Your watermelon White Claw. You losers. It isn't sent it. A historic global rugging of the press. It's actually really funny. All right, let's roll through some of this stuff off the top of the dome. So the big takeaway is that Putin's like, Trump's right. If he were president, there would have been no war. What an unbelievable thing to say. That is ripping through my timeline right now. Looks like we have we have a couple clips coming in, so we'll play them back for you. Amazing. I still can't believe it. Yeah, it's like I had to just travel like a few minutes down. The crib is only a few minutes from the studio, so I just had to like go peace out and come over to here. All these left-wing reporters had to travel effectively to Russia. Have you ever seen a map of Russia and Alaska? Do you know they're separated by like 10 miles? You know, it's like nothing. You can see Russia from your house. You just like Sarah Palin. Anybody remember this? I can see Russia from my house. She never actually said that. It's an SNL skit. Nonetheless, you can see Russia from Alaska. There are islands that are almost nearly connected, but continental America in Alaska and Russia are like, dude, you could row in a canoe from one to the other. Anyway, the point is that Trump drags all of the press that hates him all the way up there to the frozen Arctic tundra of this Air Force base, probably a 9-10 hour trip just to drop the mic. Boom. And the mic goes like this, and we're loading up the clips right now, and we're gonna play them for you. The mic drop goes like this. The big takeaways are Putin says, we have an agreement. We have the structure of the agreement laid out. We have peace. I want peace. It's good to have peace. And I want economic relations with the United States. The United States is our brethren. We fought a war together, and we should have a good relationship here. Trump said the same thing. Yo, unless somebody screws it up, which I got to go get on the phone call with Voldemort, but unless the little man-child with no cards screws it up, then we good, is what Trump says. Then we good. Can you please pop up my Windows decline? Thank you. Unless this guy, unless he screws it up, unless the Lollipop Guild screws it up, then we good. That's it. That's the TLDR. And again, a huge takeaway that President Trump saying, listen, the Russiagate thing has effed with Russian-American relations. And Putin saying if Joe Biden wasn't in the White House, if they hadn't stolen the election, then we would have no war right now. Trump's right. We would have no more. I think those are the biggest takeaways from the two of these guys. Trump then looking up and down the front of the rows, acknowledging some of the Russian businessmen and some of the phalanx of Russian power has pretty much stayed the same for a very long time. Donald Trump saying, I know some of you guys, I've done business with some of you guys. Like, let's just get this thing over with, right? It's amazing. Amazing. Okay, so here we go. The agreement clip. This is Trump and Putin saying that they agree on the terms of peace. And only bunch of globalists could go F it up. The two of the men agree on peace. Here we go.
I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress.
Okay. He says just don't F it up. Don't F up the nascent progress, the new and fresh progress. And then Putin says what I believe to be the biggest takeaway from all of this, which is confirming with Trump, no doubt Trump asked him to say this. I don't know. Probably, though. Probably, right. No doubt he's heard Trump use this line before. Maybe he's just saying it to be nicer. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm in Florida. But I didn't get my ass dragged all the way to Alaska just to get 0 questions to the press. It's so awesome. Such an alpha move, such a power move. Here's what Trump says. Clearly, Putin has heard Trump say, if I were president, there'd be no war. And Putin, either because Trump asked him or because he's heard him say this and know that this is the love language of Donald Trump, or it's just flatly true, said this. This is, I think, maybe the biggest news out of all of this.
To remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, businesslike, and trustworthy contact.
У меня
Moving down this
Got him.
path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine.
Got him. Got him. Boom. Boom. How many times did Trump say that? There would have been no war. There would have been no war. And here's Putin straight up being like, no, there would be no war with this dude. This my homie was in. It's a wild thing to say. That is the thing that is going to break and has already broken the internet. That, and also Vladimir Putin saying, we're going to do this conference in Moscow. There's only one time that he spoke English. Now, we've seen Putin on the tarmac with Trump. We've seen him kind of whispering to each other. We know that Putin speaks a little bit of English, but it's not great. We know Trump, I assume, speaks zero Russian. But this is the one time on camera for this entire time. They've been together for 7 hours. The one time on camera, Vladimir Putin speaks English. Here we go.
Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much. And we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Goodness gracious. Okay. So this is very interesting news breaking over the wires right now. So Brett Baer apparently was going to interview Vladimir Putin. So Brett Baer and Tucker Carlson to get the Putin interviews, right? It's like, so Brett Baer and Vladimir Putin, there was going to be a interview, and it all got scrapped because of a massive information blackout that was called by both teams. A very good sign. Okay. What happens when you fight? What happens when you fight with like your spouse or whatever, your friends? They all go and they go gossip to other friends. And they like balkanize, right? They go gossip and, rip it all up. Okay. My wife and I actually, this is a toxic way to behave. You shouldn't do this. You should confront directly with your spouse and like talk with them and try not to do that to each other. It'll just create more animosity. The point is that if things go bad, then you go out and you typically like gossip about it. You want to talk to the press. You want to do interviews. You want to try and create more power for your side. If things go good in a situation like this, then it's best not to upset the apple cart, as your grandfather would say. It's best to lock it all down. Why let like an errant quote or statement? Why let like a bad question? Why let these press corps that are up there that are just gonna frothing at the mouth ravenously like ask, oh, Ukraine, 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 right? Volodymyr Zelensky's probably in the press corps. He's probably wearing a Scott Pressler mask. He's wearing a Scott Pressler rubber mask, and he's like probably there himself, trying to ask a question. Why let them F it up? Makes a lot of sense. It's so wise. Just do a massive information. You have a good thing going. Do a full information blackout. Don't let the press mess with it. Don't let people meddle. Lock it down and move on. So Brett Baer is saying that he had his Putin interview cut because apparently things went so well. You understand how that would work, right? You understand how that works? It's great. It's great news. Vladimir Putin had a constructive summit, and that they are effectively there on the ceasefire deal here from the White House. I believe we had a very productive meeting. There are in many ways many points that we all agree on. There's no deal until there is a deal. I will call up NATO, and of course I will call up Zelensky. I'll tell him about today's meeting. We really made some great progress. I think we have this clip. Pretty sure we do. There it is. Boop. Bop. So Trump says, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to start working. I'm going to start heating up. I'm going to send a couple heaters. And what did I tell you? Putin just confirmed the war would have never happened. It never happened. Just a big shout out to our boy ALX. Everyone go follow ALX. What are you doing? You're not following ALX? Look at him. He's an American supremacist. He's the executive producer of this program. The great ALX. Get in there and follow ALX. Look at that. Only a few thousand subs before he gets to a million. Get him in there. Get Get in there. He's at ALX. Come on. Okay. Anyway, here's a clip. Donald Trump saying, I'm going to work the flow. I'm going to work the phones. We're going to get this peace deal done.
I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on. Most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe. Thank you very much.
Please, let's go to the next one. President Trump on the phone calls.
To put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant. But we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, whose faces, who I know in many cases, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good, productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just love to see it. President Trump is the world's greatest diplomat and peacemaker, and an important reminder that you have it directly from Vladimir Putin that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris started the war in Ukraine and probably did so for profit. Probably did so for profit. Goodness gracious. What a photo. Just pop on. Let's pop on over. Just look at some of the... Look at this. I used to really like the Kim Jong-un summit. I still think the Kim Jong-un summit still probably is my all-time favorite. But just some of the photographs out of this. This is what peace looks like. This is what you want. You don't want a world where everybody is fighting and where all of our treasure... The end of empires are foreign wars. It's not my suggestion. It's the absolute verified truth. Whether you're talking about Carthage, whether you're talking about Rome, Greek empires, Ottoman empires, any sultan, any king, any principe, every single czar, everyone's empire collapses through foreign adventurism. The British Empire and the American Empire will fall the same way. And so I am against it. You can be strong at home and project strength, and you can be a part of the world. You can be creating the world you want to live in through power without engaging in billion and trillion dollar foreign wars that get our kids killed, drains their future, destroys our treasure, our greatest treasure, our human American lives. I love this tweet. I did a hard repost on this tweet. Liberals negotiating a peace deal. 6 months of planning, big summit in Prague, Geneva, or Doha. 32 court eunuchs sit around a table. Nothing significant said or accomplished. Trump negotiates peace deal. 1 week of planning, YOLO the entire thing. Meet at an Air Force base in Putin's backyard, one-on-one, man-to-man discussion, fly a B-2 stealth bomber overhead just to flex American power. Who is the peacemaker? It's exactly what they did, man. It's so freaking awesome. Look at these clips. Look at this clip. Trump, Putin, the F-22 Raptors. This is what it looks like to have the adults back in charge. Listen to that sound. I mean, it's just total space age. Ah, it's so cool. It's so awesome. You see him flying. This is just the absolute and total absolute flex. Then look at the power handshake there. Donald Trump pulling the pull, right? Classic pull, power handshake.
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
Absolutely devastating. Man, and then Putin, I love this. Putin gets in his car. They get in the beast together and ride off alone. How cool is that, man? Just absolute and total alpha energy. Everyone loves it. It's just like it's how you, well, it's how you do the leader of the free world thing. Forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, forgive me. Okay, here we go. Let's go to some of the reactions here, shall we? We'll talk through a little bit more about what we got. I don't think we'll have any more clips today. ALX, what Bret Baier clips should we play? Bret Baier did a long interview with President Trump. I think the Bret Baier Trump Hillary stuff is pretty funny. Here we go.
In fact, did you see that Hillary Clinton yesterday said that if you got this deal done and not capitulate to Putin, that she would nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize?
If President Trump were the architect of that, I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, that was very nice. I may have to start liking her again.
Please don't. Please indict her. And then get the Peace Prize as well. Trump talking about exactly what Vladimir Putin just said. So this was on the flight, obviously, before President Trump met with Putin. Trump saying, I inherited this mess. I inherited this nightmare. And Putin just confirmed it. Here we go.
These guys, both Xi and Putin, have said things before that they didn't live up to, or they did other things. And, when you were campaigning, you said, we can solve this right away, 24 hours. You got into it. You've explained it's much more complex. It's tougher, right?
So I thought this would be, I settled 6 wars recently, like Congo was going on. This was with Rwanda, was going on for 31 years, and I got it settled. We have a case with, take a look at Cambodia, take a look at so many. And the most difficult ones turned out to be easy. The easiest one, which should be this one, turned out to be the toughest.
And that's because of Putin?
Well, it's because of a lot of things. It's because of personalities that don't get along very well. I mean, President Zelensky and President Putin did not get along. Again, I inherited this. I came in. I got very angry at people yesterday. I came in and I said, what the hell? I inherited this mess. I inherited a mess from Biden with the economy, with inflation, with high taxes, with so many other things.
Putin now confirming that Trump's right there. And Trump saying, I'm going to do it the way that Reagan did it with Gorbachev. This is, I think, going to be, this is our final clip. But this is, I think, a fun interview. It's the only interview that Trump's done today. So it's worth listening in. President Trump saying, just the way that Gorbachev and Reagan figured out peace. Here we go.
86, Reagan walks away from Reykjavik with Gorbachev, and it was a strong moment. I mean, you could foresee if it goes down a bad path, you get up and walk away.
I'm not doing it based on history, based on anything else. I'm doing it based on a deal. If we make a deal, great. If I see that there's no hope of making a deal, I'm out of there. It's over. I'm out of there. This isn't my war. This is Biden's war. This is Biden screwed this up.
Yes.
just like he did with Afghanistan with that horrible retreat. And the way he did it, I'll never forget it. That was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country.
Correct.
Well, this is Biden's war, too. This is a war that should have never happened. I saw it for 4 years. It didn't happen. And I understand Putin. It was the apple of his eye. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. There was no way he was going to move on it. I'll tell you, you have a very similar thing with President Xi of China and Taiwan. But I don't believe there's any way it's going to happen as long as I'm here. We'll see. He told me, I will never do it as long as you're president. That's President Xi told me that. And I said, well, I appreciate that. But he also said, but I am very patient. And China is very patient. I said, well, that's up to you. But it better not happen now.
Okay. I don't know how else to tell you, man. Like, if Vladimir Putin is walking away from this thing saying you need to come to Moscow and saying it in English, which is the first time that Vladimir Putin has spoken in English in, I don't know. When was the last time you heard Putin speak in English? You do that clip just one more time. We're going to end on this one. I mean, look at the difference. Look at the difference in this. I'm going to do something like fun just to show you exactly how excellent this has all gone. I want to ask you, do you see the difference between this clip right here?
Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on this
position to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right about
From
it.
the very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a
Brown,
good position.
I
You
was
don't have
in
the cards right now. With us, you start
I'm
having
not playing
cards. But
cards.
right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives of
anymore.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What do you-
III.
what do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to
respect to
you.
your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Now, a reminder that Trump walked out of this meeting. This is just a minute clip of a 13.5-minute gutting that happened to Voldemort when he was in the White House, one of the first meetings that President Trump took. Have you tried saying thank you? Some of the most famous lines, actually, some of the most famous memes of the Trump era spawned in this exact moment. You don't have the cards, President Trump says. What a petulant little rat Zelensky is, by the way, in the way that he talks and speaks. Notice notice the slight difference between this actor, right? He's just an actor. That's what he does. He's a professional TV guy. He's a famous actor in Ukraine. That's it. That's all he did. That's all he ever did. That's why he was chosen for this central casting. Notice the difference between that and this.
Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it. Notice the difference. The difference is that one wants to make peace, one wants to make war. Like, I don't know. Like, what do I know? You know, like, what do I know? But all I can tell you is the things they said. What they said was that there was a peace agreement that was agreed to in concept. They had the skeleton of a peace agreement, and they walked away without taking any questions. They didn't want to scuttle anything. The major warning from both parties, Trump and Putin, the major warning was, don't mess it up. We're in a really good spot. Don't mess it up. We're not going to take any questions. We're not going to let any people meddle. We're not going to let you screw anything. Don't mess it up. And let's just let's get peace. Peace. An ugly peace is better, demonstrably, than a hot war. Absolutely. And so I mean, Zelensky got kicked out of the White House. Just a reminder, they had a lunch planned. They marched Zelensky out of the White House, put him in his car, told him to go home. They canceled his lunch. Apparently the White House staff were eating the lunch in the hallway that was intended for Zelensky. And the difference between this is stark. So we'll see. I think it's a great sign that they didn't take questions, as entertaining as it might have been. And I think it's a great sign that Trump just said, hey, I'm going to get on the phones. And now we're going to make it work. I mean, they didn't really show their cards to use that as, sort of a metaphor for all this. But I think you can discern, you can divine quite a few really interesting things from how they've gone about this. And what does this mean? Peace. That's what we pray for. Peace. Peace, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we want. Peace through strength. Peace through our great American nation, military. This is what they sent overhead. This is what they sent over Putin's head. This is peace. This is how you get peace, ladies and gentlemen. And so there they are. Here it is. The massive flyover. And hopefully peace through strength in our time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always an interesting one. You never know. Just a big shout out to our production team that is always locked in. We have so many exciting things and missions to take on in the future. We're going to do them with you, and we're so thankful for you in supporting us. And let's see, is ALX? Check ALX as a following, can you? Please, let's get ALX up to 1 million. Is there a way to do it? Can we do it? Can we do it? ALX, can you go to 1 million? Come on, everyone, get in there and follow ALX. Ladies and gentlemen, on our way. We're just thankful for you. It's kind of like what Trump, this is kind of to ALX's Twitter background. It's kind of like Trump tonight. Yeah, there you go. Peace through strength. Look different in every generation, but with the same outcome. And that is the era that we want to live through. That will make our era truly golden. Thank you for watching along with us tonight. Never a dull moment. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. And remember, in the end, we win. See ya.
No, ma'am, this is not a good idea.
Goddamn son of a bitch. The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest kings. And their dying legacy, media deal weeds. Soon will the Benny Show come to mind. The salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for #1. Come to mind, the salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for #1. The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest king.